Good morning and welcome to this webinar. The STAC team will be reviewing the Smart Snack standards and providing you with the resources to assist you with successfully implementing smart snacks in your schools. At any time, if you have a question, please put it in the chat or in the Q&A. Now let's get started. My name is Juanita Bowens, and I am the Wellness Policy Liaison at the Department of Education, and I am one of the STAT team members. We also have Molly Mills and Taylor Herlick. Both are program managers for the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. We have McLean Gutkind from MUSC's Boeing Center for Children's Wellness, who will be presenting with me today. Erica Ayers from DHEC, and Benjamin Badina, PE and health education consultants, are also members of the STAT team and will be helping to moderate the chat throughout today's webinar. Now, let's go over the agenda. Today, we will be looking at smart snacks in our schools. Why do we need smart snacks? We will also look at general and specific nutrient standards, as well as provide you with tools and resources to help you successfully implement smart snacks in your schools. The USDA guides that's here on the sheet provides detailed information about the federal smart snack standards, which we will discuss today. But we will also review some exemptions that are specific to the state of South Carolina.
Thank you, Juanita. And we can go to the next slide. Perfect. Alrighty. So what are smart snacks? Smart snacks are a set of federal requirements for all foods sold outside the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. Smart snacks nutrition standards were implemented July 1st, 2014. We can hop to the next slide. Awesome. Alrighty. So why are smart snacks important? Almost a quarter of kids' daily calories may come from snacks, and kids who have healthy eating patterns are more likely to perform better academically. Research also shows that students are less likely to miss school and have fewer behavioral problems with better nutrition. Essentially, the brain needs good nutrition to function properly, and when smart snacks are available, the healthy choice is the easy choice. In 2010, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act was passed by Congress to expand meal offerings that address nutritional needs for growth and development of children, including the National School Lunch Program. The purpose of this stronger legislation was to reduce the obesity epidemic, promote academic success, and decrease future healthcare costs. Nutrition standards that promote healthy growth and development for children are mandated for each age and grade levels, and meal patterns are based upon these standards. The implementation of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act has led to increases in meal participation, revenue for school nutrition programs, and most importantly, consumption of nutritious foods by children. In addition to updating the meal patterns to increase fruits, vegetables, and whole grains served to children, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act introduced the community eligibility provision, which offers free breakfast and lunch to students in a school without requiring school meal applications. Schools with 40% or more families participating in federal assistance programs qualify. Then in 2013, the interim final rule of smart snacks in schools was released that focused on the quality of snacks and mandating nutrition standards for those sold and served. In 2016, the USDA's Food and Nutrition Service finalized regulations to create a framework and guidelines for written wellness policies. Wellness policies should include guidelines for all foods and beverages sold to students, as well as smart snack guidelines and policies for food and beverage marketing. LEAs must fully comply with requirements of the final rule by June 30th, 2017. So let's explore further how the USDA's final rule impacts the school nutrition environment. So the meals in the cafeteria are becoming even healthier as the standards under the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act are being implemented. That's why it's so important that children have access to healthy food throughout the school day to support wellness across the school campus. Not only at school, but the message of healthy eating and active living should be reinforced in the environment, not just where children learn, but it should be encouraged where they live, play, and pray as well.
Now that we have given you some background information on how smart snack standards evolved, let's look at its application. So how do smart snack standards apply to schools? Smart snacks in school nutrition standards apply to all food and beverages sold to students on the school campus during the school day. Apply to foods sold on campus school day. Remember, smart snack standards apply to foods sold. However, check your district's local wellness policy to determine if smart snack applies to foods and beverages that are served. All foods and beverages sold outside of the school meal program must meet smart snack standards. Smart snacks are foods and beverages sold during the school day, which are also called competitive foods and beverages because they directly compete with federally reimbursed school meals. These items consist of a la carte school stores, snack carts, vending machines, and also in-school fundraisers, with some exceptions which we will review. Smart snack standards are required to be compliant during the school day, and the school day is considered 12 a.m. to 30 minutes after the last school bell rings. Okay? Now, smart snacks do not apply under these circumstances unless your local wellness policy says otherwise. In the teacher's lounge, not served, not sold, but served or offered unless stated otherwise in your district wellness policy. They also do not apply to food sold at the end of the school day, weekends, evenings, or community events. And also, they do not apply to food sold as fundraisers that occur during non-school hours, on weekends, or at off-campus events. Smart snack standards are not applicable to food sold to non-students, such as parents, school faculty, and staff members. The smart snack standards also do not apply to food served or offered to students without purchasing. For example, federal standards do not apply to food brought to school by students for their own consumption. However, to ensure consistency of healthy foods and beverages on campus during the school day, it is important that standards and nutrition guidelines for food and beverages offered do not conflict with smart snacks requirements. Refer to your specific local wellness policy to determine if there are any standards for classroom parties or incentive. Smart snacks do not apply to fundraisers during non-school hours, but may apply to others. Let's look at fundraising in more details. Okay, when we are talking about fundraisers, there are additional things to consider, such as timing, exemptions, and compliant items. Timing. Food beverages should meet smart snack standards if they are sold and intended to be consumed during the school day. Exemptions. Some states allow exemptions. These fundraisers do not have to meet smart snack standards. South Carolina allows 31 day in length exempt fundraisers per school. Exempt fundraisers beyond the 30 allowed must be approved by the State Department of Education. Remember to document all exempt fundraisers. A link to a form that may be used to track your exempt fundraisers will be placed in the chat. Keep this record on hand as you do not know when you will be asked to provide it. And the third thing that you need to consider when you're talking about fundraisers, compliant items. Sales of foods and beverages that meet the smart snack standards and sale of non-food items such as wrapping paper or clothing items are not limited under the federal policy. Now, let's look at South Carolina's policy, which we will share with you later. But right now, let's look at some creative ways to fundraise. For example, the Alliance for a Healthier Generation has provided a lot of resources to help improve your school wellness environment. We are including a link in the chat box which provides 5 steps to healthier fundraising and a link to the alternative fundraising ideas. For example, if you were to look at the slide, you can get kids moving by hosting different events, such as a fun walk or run, and ask some of your sponsors to match or to pay a certain amount based on the number of miles that the child runs or walks. And then also you can host spark creativity, excuse me, by involving the entire school, such as in a talent show or either in a school sponsored branding promotion. And then support healthy eating by hosting taste testing and getting the entire community involved. Now we will look at specific standards that apply to Smart Snack. McLean.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be going over the specific standards for what meets Smart Snack requirements. So as you see here, these are the general standards on the slide. The first ingredient of any entree or snack item has to be either whole grain, fruit, vegetable, protein, or dairy. If you have some sort of combination food, those could be at least a fourth of a cup of fruit or vegetable, and you can find out more specifically about that from your manufacturer. For example, you could have a fourth of a cup of raisins alongside some whole grain pretzels. There are some foods that do not have to follow Smart Snack standards. For example, anything that is fresh, frozen, or canned, they are exempt from Smart Snacks as long as there's no additives in that, with the exception of water. So if your cafeteria made a fresh salsa using tomatoes, onions, and garlic with no other added ingredients, that would be exempt from the nutrient standards. Next slide, please. So here are the specific nutrient standards. You can see that snacks have to be under 200 calories. Entree items have to be less than 350 calories. There has to be less than 230 milligrams of salt in snacks, whereas entrees you get a little bit more, less than 480 milligrams. For both snacks and entrees, there are fat limits, so less than 35% of the calories for total fat. As far as saturated fat goes, there has to be less than 10% of calories, and as you all know, no grams of trans fats. And then finally, for sugar, there has to be less than 35% of the weight from the total amount of sugars in those food items. So next we have drinks for all grade levels. Of course, all grades can have water with or without carbonation, and there's no limit on that for them. As far as milk goes, students are allowed to have non-fat milk or low-fat milk, but for low-fat milk, it has to be plain only, whereas non-fat can be flavored. For juices, students are allowed to have 100% fruit or vegetable juice. You could also dilute that with water, with or without carbonation, and that juice has to have no added sweeteners to it. And the serving sizes for all of these items is 8 ounces for elementary school and 12 ounces for middle and high school. Next slide, please. So in high school, there are some other beverages they can have, such as diet drinks or low-calorie beverages. And for those, it just has to be less than 5 calories or less than 10 calories for those diet types of beverages. And for low-calorie beverages, those have to be less than 40 calories for 8 ounces or less than 60 calories for 12 ounces. And finally, caffeine. So as you all know, middle and middle and elementary school students cannot have any caffeine drinks, whereas in high school there are no restrictions. So that is about it for the Smart Snack nutrients.
Thanks, McLean. I'm going to take it from here, and don't stress. You don't have to memorize all of those guidelines. I'm going to show you kind of some tools that you can use to help determine if your foods actually meet those guidelines. So we don't expect you to memorize all of those. Granted, that USDA guide that we mentioned in the beginning does review all of that if it helps to have a written guide. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, Juanita. So I'll take over the slides. Let's see. All right, hopefully you're seeing my slides now. Again, I know we were introduced in the beginning, but I wanted to remind you, I'm Molly. I'm one of the South Carolina program managers with the Alliance for Healthier Generation. So I want to highlight some of the tools and resources that Healthier Generation offers to really take the guesswork out of, calculating these smart snack standards. And I will say I've been practicing saying that, but that's kind of hard. Smart snack standards. So bear with me. We have two tools that I really want to highlight today. One is our Smart Snack Product Calculator, and the other is our Smart Food Planner. We're going to drop links in the chat box for these tools, but I want to give you a little demo of the Smart Snack Calculator. So just to kind of get a feel for who I'm talking to and maybe who is already familiar with this, if you will, I want you to give me a reaction. So at the top screen, there's a little smiley face that says react. And if you've already used the Smart Snack Calculator, if you can send a heart my way. So you hit react, there should be a little heart or kind of emoji that comes up. If you have not used the Smart Snack Calculator, but you've heard of it, so you're familiar with it, give me a thumbs up. So again, in those emojis, or if you have trouble, you can give me a, yeah, in the chat box too, that works. Heart if you've used it, thumbs up if you're familiar with it, and if you've never heard of it, how about throw the surprised emoji my way? Good, seeing some hearts and surprise faces, good. So hopefully this will be helpful for some of you. That the calculator keeps telling me no. So you know the calculator, but you're not friends with the calculator. That's fair enough. Okay, keep throwing those emojis my way. And this is what the calculator looks like. Again, we will add a link through the chat box. And again, you'll have access to these slides too. Or honestly, you can Google Healthier Generation Smart Snack Calculator if you want to follow along with me. So we are going to look at two different products today to see if they are Smart Snack compliant. First is going to be this popcorn. Okay, so I'm going to go back and forth so we can type this information into the Smart Snack Calculator. And I'm going to ask you a few questions as we go. So we're going to practice your label reading skills as well. So I hope you've had your coffee this morning. All right, so this is our Smart Snack Calculator. So one cool thing about this is there's these little, I guess, blue bubbles off to the side that give you definitions and a little more details. So if you're not sure if popcorn is technically considered like a snack or a side, you can look at these little blue bubbles and it will define it for you. So for snack, when we look at the blue bubble, it specifically says includes products such as chips, popcorns, nuts, and snack type bars is the first part of that. So popcorn, we're going to call a snack. So you highlight that and go next step. Is the first ingredient of your product, is it a fruit, vegetable, dairy, protein, whole grain, or none of the above? So for popcorn, we look at our ingredients. First ingredient is popcorn. Anybody want to maybe take themselves off mute and just tell me what food group is popcorn? Don't be shy. Or put it in the chat box. Grain. Very good. Thank you. So popcorn is going to be considered a whole grain. Good. Next. All right. This is where we have to practice our label reading. I'm going to try to make this a little bigger as we go. All right. So we've got to put in our serving size. So let's go back to our popcorn. Up top. Again, feel free to take yourself off mute or throw it in the chat box. What is our serving size for popcorn?
1 cups, 30 grams.
Very good. So 2 cups, 30 grams, and then that's 1 serving per container. So we're going to say 30 grams, 1 serving per container. All right, we got to figure out how many calories is in that. How many calories do we have?
$140.
Very good. 140 calories. And now we're going to look at fat. So we're going to go back to the popcorn and look at total fat, saturated fat, and trans fat. So total fat for our popcorn. Put on your reading glasses. Can y'all see that?
4 grams.
Very good. We got 4 grams. How much saturated fat?
0.
Very good. 0. And trans?
0.
Also 0. Awesome. So we're going to add a 4, a 0, and a 0. All right, sodium. So for this popcorn, our sodium is?
170.
Very good. 170. And then total sugar. So it's going to be listed under our carbohydrates. Total sugar is?
8 grams.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, anybody want to guess? Do you think this is Smart Snack compliant? Any feelings either way? Let's see. Yay, we passed the test. So this popcorn is considered Smart Snack compliant. So meets all those standards that McLean went through a little bit earlier. The neat thing about this calculator is it does help you to keep track of these products so that you don't have to continue to like recalculate them every year. So if you're sticking with the same vendor, you have the same brand of bagged popcorn and the nutrition information doesn't change, you can put, put popcorn as our brand, but you can put your specific brand of popcorn, the product, your first ingredient, and it gives you this nutrition facts label. So this is something that you can easily print for your records and again, save so that assuming you're not changing vendors, you're not changing brands, you'll start to learn, which snacks are Smart Snack compliant so that you're not having to, redo your work every year. So highly encourage you to use this calculator. And again, as you kind of print these for your records, hopefully it really does take the guesswork out of it. And I heard some of you at the beginning of this presentation, or when you were asked, like, what are some foods that you want to be Smart Snack, meet your Smart Snack standards? I heard like graham crackers and of course cupcakes, brownies, all of those things. One interesting thing to keep in mind is a lot of brands, some will say like Kellogg's, for example, has specific food items that they make specifically for schools. So what's interesting is like the Kellogg's for School Pop-Tarts, for example, are different than the Pop-Tarts that you buy at the grocery store. Same with their cereal. So I would say don't assume that something is not Smart Snack compliant without putting it in the calculator, because you might assume that Pop-Tarts, there's no way, I've seen those at the grocery store, they're high in sugar, they're not whole grain, there's no way that meets our Smart Snack standards. But however, The Kellogg's for School specific Pop-Tarts actually have whole grain as their first ingredient. They're in a smaller, they're come in one Pop-Tart, not two, so it's fewer calories, and they dramatically decrease the sugar content. And that's same with a lot of the cereals that are served in school. Honestly, I wish they had those things available at the grocery store. You know, that would make it healthier for our households as well. But those specific foods that are made for schools actually tend to meet most of these standards. So don't count them out. Make sure you use the calculator before you assume that you can't serve them. All right, we're going to do one other little demo. Y'all are getting the hang of this, but let's look at one other option. So now we have Sun Chips as an example. Okay, so we're going to go through the same thing and see if this meets our guidelines. So we're going to start over. All right, anybody want to tell me, does you think Sun Chips fall under snack, side, entree, or beverage?
Snack.
There you go. Y'all are pros now. First ingredient of Sun Chips. Let's go back. It says whole corn. What would that be considered?
Vegetable.
Oh,
grain.
yeah, I'm gonna say whole grain on this one, but you're right. When it's corn, that one is a little bit tricky, but again, we can kind of look at this little bubble and it will give you more specific definitions of whole grains. It says for corn products, please follow the guidance. And again, if it's whole corn, it's going to be considered whole grain.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
And then serving size here. So we've got 1.5 ounces. And again, 1 serving per container. All right, calories. How many?
210.
Very good. 210. And then we're gonna look at those fats. The total fat is
There's 9
9
Very good.
grams.
9. Do we have any saturated fat?
1 gram,
Very good. Any trans fat?
none.
Very good. And trans fat's one of those things that if any product has trans fat, it's not going to meet our guidelines. So we always want to keep that one 0. Sodium.
210.
Very good. So a little bit higher than our popcorn. Sugars.
4.
4. So less sugar than the popcorn, but more sodium. What do you guys think? Does this one look like it might be meet our smart snack standards?
No, it's over
Yeah.
in calories for one.
Look at you. Very good. Over in calories, too high in fat as well, and too high in total fat, and then too high in sodium. So it's a little over that sodium. So this is one, again, that I think, you know, some people might look at the package and assume it says whole grain on the front, garden salsa. It's advertised to kind of make us feel like it's healthier. But it even has a little note on here that says heart healthy, yet the total fat content is quite high. So keep in mind that these labels like heart healthy are not regulated. So people can put that on their snack. They can put it in a brightly colored package with some vegetables on it and make us feel healthy, even if it's not necessarily that nutritious. So bottom line here, please use your calculator. It really can help you to determine, you know, which food is going to meet the specific standards for your school. All right, the other tool that we have is our Smart Food Planner. So this is a great option if you're looking for maybe specific meal plans. So you're planning out the school menu and you want to see examples of meals that would meet our nutrition standards. They will make specific meal plans for you. There's also recipes and a reminder about like wellness policies and the smart snack standards. So I do encourage you to use this, especially for any of our food service directors out there. This really can help to take the guesswork out of your meal planning. All right. So for some, hopefully some of you were able to attend our webinar last month where we talked about setting goals. We want to kind of loop back to that and tie this to your goal setting. So I want you to think about it this way, we're kind of wrapping up with you right now. So let's think about what are your next steps. Essentially, we encourage you to use this information today to ensure that your Smart Snack standards are met. So if your district is not currently meeting these standards, this is a great opportunity to set one of those measurable goals to really help, improve your wellness policy and school wellness environment. So again, if you attended our last webinar, you may remember us talking through this criteria and setting a goal that clearly defines your what, who, when, how, and how much. This is a sample goal that we have written out that your district can use if you're not currently, meeting the Smart Snack standards. So this goal says the district will revise all vending contracts to ensure that 100% of all venues that sell food and beverages will meet Smart Snack standards by June 2025. So again, to kind of recap our what, who, when, how, and how much, our what in this example is really just ensuring that all venues that sell food and beverages will meet those Smart Snack standards. Our who is the school district. When, of course, is that date, June 2025. So we want to make sure it's realistic. Again, we're not saying you have to do this by next week. In this example, it's giving you 2 years. How is by actually revising those vending contracts. So revising those contracts is going to help us to meet those Smart Snack standards. And how much is 100% of all your venues. So we want all of the venues to be in compliance by June 2025. So again, this is a sample goal. You are welcome to use this goal if it applies to your district. I know I showed you a couple of the resources today. As a reminder, Healthier Generation has other free resources that are available to help you meet your Smart Snack goals. So we're going to include a link to the Healthier Generation Action Center. I encourage you to take some time to review these resources and also share them with your district wellness council or your school wellness committee and school community to really support compliance of the local wellness policy and consistency of selling and serving healthy foods and beverages to students. So the Healthier Generation Action Center does require you to create a free account if you don't already have one. It takes about 30 seconds, again, and it gives you access to a plethora of resources. The ones I'm showing you right now are, of course, Smart Snack specific, but there's other resources available on the website as well. I know we had talked about using the kind of setting a sample goal for ourselves, and in that goal, it was to modify our vendor contracts. So on this Healthier Generation Action Center, they even have a sample letter that you can use to write to vendors that you work closely with. So this letter, will help you to inquire about Smart Snack compliant products that you use to improve the food and beverage options on your campus. So again, we try to really kind of streamline the work for you so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. Earlier, it was fundraisers were mentioned, and I wanted to also include the links to South Carolina specific fundraising information. I think those were already dropped in the chat box, but South Carolina does, allow up to 30 exempt fundraisers, and it is encouraged to track those fundraisers. So these links will help with both of those. All right, and we're going to leave you with some additional resources. So these are all of the things that we mentioned throughout today's presentations, that USDA guide to Smart Snacks, as well as the fundraising guidance, and of course the Smart Snacks calculator and additional resources on our Action Center. We also want to remind you about some upcoming webinar opportunities. So these webinars are hosted by Holzfire as part of the Communities and Schools webinar series. The next webinar is going to be in April, and the topic is providing healthy environments for healthy learners. I know some of you have been great about attending our previous monthly webinars, and we highly encourage you to keep that momentum going, and hopefully we'll see you April 19th. Again, we will try to drop a link in the chat box so that you can register for that. So if you have, I think we have some time for questions actually, so we can open it up to questions. But if you think of anything that you need following today's presentation, please submit your questions to this wellness policy email address that you see at the bottom. You'll see, of course, all of our individual contacts as well. You're welcome to reach out to us individually. If you have questions about the Healthier Generation resources, you are welcome to reach me or Taylor, and we can walk you through that action center that I mentioned. But thank you for your time today. Let's see, I guess I will turn it back over to you guys and we can, we have a little time for questions.
Erica and Ben, are there any questions in the chat or in the Q&A?
I have not seen any in the chat, but now is a good
Okay.
time to add them if anyone has one. Oh wait, there isn't one now. Besides vendors, does anyone know where to get snacks that meet the requirements? Good question. Thank you, Andy.
I think I'm going to let Molly answer that because I think the Alliance for a Healthier Generation has a product store. You want to address that, Molly, for me?
So we actually don't list like specific products that meet smart snack requirements. To be honest, it's because products change. And it depends on the size of the packaging and the specific vendor. So we do have, again, some like recipe resources through that food planner guide. But I would say, again, going directly through your vendor is going to be the best way to determine if their snacks meet your requirements. If anybody else has other experience on the school or district level, feel free to chime in. But from my experience, I think the vendor is your best bet. Run a school store. So if you don't mind sharing, like, where do you currently get the products from your school store?
So for those of you who get your products from others besides a vendor, could you come off mute and share that with us, or either put it in the chat? And while we're waiting for them to put that in the chat, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to put that in the chat as well.
And then Juanita, people are just asking if the recording of today's webinar and slides will be available along with the links shared. And if you're able to share the PowerPoint, Juanita, the links that were shared today are in the notes section of the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Erica. We will do that.
And all of the links are also at the end of the presentation as part of those resources. So once they're shared, you'll be able to access all of them easily. So I see someone said we solely buy our products from a vendor. It sounds like, you know, for those of you who are just starting out with a school store, you know, if you're starting something on a small scale and again, not getting it specifically from products from a vendor, I would say that's where you'll have to manually input your products through that smart snack calculator. So it does take obviously a little more work on the front end, but then once you identify those products, again, assuming if you're kind of doing things on a small scale, you can identify those handful of products that would be compliant using the calculator, and then make sure you print those labels so that you don't have to continuously repeat that process.
And I just what you said, Molly. I spoke with a food service director at the farmers show this week, and she was trying to find a product to give as an incentive, and they wanted to use cookies. And what they did is that they found a cookie that did not meet. But what they did, the principal, and this was so encouraging to hear, that the principal encouraged her to know you have to find a product that is Smart Snack compliant. And they went to the calculator and was able to find an item to give as an incentive.
I love
So
it. And it sounds like I like Andre's option. I'll make it a class project. So same idea. Yeah, you can get the
awesome.
students involved, and that's a great way to teach label reading. You can teach math as part of that as well. When we're talking about like percent fat, you know, you can actually have a math lesson as you're going through that calculator. So I love it.
That's a very creative. And when we start looking at creative ideas and best practices, please don't forget to remind us to contact you to share that with others and how your project went.
And to piggyback on what you were talking about with incentives, so when in doubt, you know, and again, if you're struggling to find like a way to incentivize children, you know, I would say let's just avoid foods altogether. Let's stick with non-food related rewards, and then you don't have to go the smart snack calculator route. You can, you know, offer rewards in other ways. Again, especially things that promote health and wellness as opposed to offering food related incentives.
Great. Are there any more questions? Or anyone want to share any success that they've had with working with other departments in the school to promote smart snacks or to provide items that are smart snack compliant? Okay, if not, we have 3 minutes left. We're going to allow 1 minute for questions or comments from any of the participant. You can bring yourself off of mute. And if you want to share something with us, this is the time to do that, please. Kim, are you saying something? If you are, you're on mute. You would have to unmute yourself if you want to share, Kim. Okay,
I
you're
think
not
she was
sharing?
having yeah.
Okay, Kim, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, well, thanks you everyone for attending. Thank the presenters for doing a wonderful job. If you have any questions about the calculator, you know, Molly is the person to contact. And so again, thank you all so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Have a great day.